In the last few days and weeks, some dear friends have distracted, quotes. I quoted the distraction because they did not intentionally set out to distract me, but ultimately it was a distraction. They tried to draw my attention to an article, quote, an article because it was not really an article but trash, by one of Nigeria's noisiest anti-Semites. Everybody that is familiar with Nigeria would know this guy. He tries to get a job by attacking Nigeria's most popular politician, Mr. Peter Obi. And what he actually does is attack the Igbos through Peter Obi. Because being anti-Semitic, he hates the Igbo people with passion. So my attention was, my friends tried to draw my attention to an article I believe he wrote some years ago. Probably he wrote a new one. This guy is a Shekiri, but he pretends to be Yoruba. He's not proud of his own ethnic origins. The article apparently alleged falsely that the Igbo people did not come from the Israelites. To say that the Igbos did not come from the Israelites is tantamount to saying that the Igbo people is tantamount to saying that Moses did not descend from the Israelites, because until I'm proved wrong, the Igbo culture and religion, which is called the Omenana, is the culture and religion that Moses, the most quintessential Israelite, practiced. I'm not joking, I'm not mincing words. I can prove what I have said beyond all doubts. And the people that should know, the first line that should know about this are the Igbos themselves, the Igbos who have studied Omenana and at very high levels, then the Jews, the Samaritans, the Karaites are the people who will be familiar with what I'm talking about. I mean, scholars in these communities who have engaged with these subjects. And those that have, people like Professor Walter Isaac, Dr. Yehonatan Elazadi Mota, Dr. Daniel Lees, Nze Yeremiah Danzig, and they are growing in numbers, including Professor Michael Alexander. They know that when you look at the Igbo religion and culture, you are looking at a facsimile of the religion and culture you see in the Bible. But this anti-Semite wrote a few years ago, basing on trash called evidence, wishy-washy evidence like that, the state of Israel does not recognize the Igbos. The state of Israel is not in a position to say or not to say that the Igbos came from Israel. The people that are in a position to say if the Igbos came from Israel or not are scholars from these communities, primarily scholars from these communities who have studied the culture, religion, and language of the Igbos. The state of Israel is not qualified to rule on this matter. It's not qualified. And a Jewish Bedin, you know what a Jewish Bedin means? A religious court has ruled on this matter. It has ruled that the Igbos are lineal descendants of the Israelites. But this guy thinks that if the state of Israel recognizes the Igbos, that is proof that the Igbos came from Israel. And if it doesn't, that is proof that the Igbos did not come from Israel. And I say no. The state of Israel is the modern state of Israel. It has a lot of responsibilities. It has a say, but it does not have all the say. And as I said, those that have studied knows that this guy was relying on wishy-washy evidence. But why was he bothered about the origins of the Igbos? Why was he not bothered about the origins of his own Ishekiri? Why was he not bothered about the origins of the Yorubas he claims he descended from? He's anti-Semitic. He's obsessed with the Igbos. How can you say that the Igbos did not come from Israel when the Igbo language is the oldest survival of the language that Moses spoke. There are idioms in the Bible that you can only understand if you know the Igbo language and if you know Omenana. If you don't know them, you will not be able to understand those idioms. If you want to sample, go to Haran died in the face of the Father. Only the Igbos will understand what the writers of the Bible are talking about. So I felt I was distracted when they tried to draw my attention to the article because I have too many things to do. I have written 22 books. I still have another 78 books to write. The book I'm holding, one of the smartest Jews I've come across saw it, or saw the first draft of it and said, this is the beginnings of the Igbo Mishnah and Talmud. Even if I have to walk alone, I have to leave behind the Mishnah and the Talmud for the Igbo people. So I'm busy. I was not very happy when people I respect so much tried to draw my attention to that because, frankly, I'm distressed that Igbos follow this guy. They enrich him by follow whatever he has to say. He's living off social media, so when he writes provocative things about the Igbos go to either support or to attack him, and money goes into his account. So I was not very happy. Well, to proceed, scholars of anti-Semitism are not aware that a typical anti-Semitic weapon used against the Igbos is the denial of their Israelite identity. I have seen this weapon used only against Ashkenazi and to a lesser extent the Sephardi Jews. There are people who traffic in the falsehood that the Ashkenazi Jews have no connection to the earliest Israelites. They are either ignorant or they're anti-Semitic. They are not informed as I am. Because if the Ashkenazi Jews did not descend from the earliest Israelites, they would not understand the Omenana very easily. I'm stunned by the speed at which the Ashkenazi Jews and the Sephardic Jews understand the Omenana. Just like people who are not very, very familiar with what is going on are surprised that the Igbo people learn modern Hebrew in months. There are thousands of Igbos living in Nigeria who have not been to any airport who speak the Israeli Hebrew. Because they learn it very easily, even though the Israeli Hebrew is suffused with Yiddish, which is an European-based language, but because it has a lot of Hebrew, an Igbo can master it overnight. That is it. The University of Ibadan, Department of Languages, ruled so many years ago that the Igbo language and the Hebrew language are genetically related. So I'm not surprised. But those that don't know, don't know. I consider the call for me to see what an Anwafia wrote as a distraction because only an anti-Semite and Anwafia, or a person lacking knowledge of the Igbo or Israelites, will doubt that the Igbos are Israelites. And I don't like to waste time looking at what Efulef wrote. A rabbinical court, I've talked about this, a rabbinical court, a religious court, which any Jew that disputes what it said is going outside Judaism. If you rise up against what a rabbinical court ruled, you are going against Judaism. A rabbinical court has ruled that the Igbo people are linear descendants of the Israelites, just like Omenana are defenders. We have not yet constituted a court, but we have said that every tongue that is Sephardi, the Ashkenazi, are linear descendants of the Israelites because we have looked at their culture and they know so much of Omenana. Recently, we concluded a groundbreaking work. I collaborated with Mikhail Meir Halevi, an Ashkenazi, to break what a lot of Igbos will see as a code. This Nze and I collaborated to determine definitively the reason why the Israelite woman seen through the Igbo woman is viewed as a Diana. Or rather, why an Israelite is viewed as a Diana, that is native of the land, through the mother and not through the father. This is what you find in Omenana. And you find it in ancient Israelite culture, but we arrived at the most profound revelations because an Ashkenazi walked along with me and an African American to come up with this. If this is not his culture, I doubt that this Ashkenazi would have thrown up the things he did. Well, this religious court gave this ruling in order to start educating the Jewish people officially about the Igbos. He wants to start educating the citizens of the state of Israel about the status of the Igbos as linear descendants of the Israelites. That is the purpose of that court. This child you are looking at in this picture is likely less than 24 years, but she's wearing a Magen David. She's wearing a Star of David. Why? Why is she wearing a Star of David? I'm sure this girl is likely a Christian. He said, people say that almost all Igbos are Christians, although they are not. They are Israelites who think they are Christians because the Igbos remain the only group, or the Igbos were the only group of Nigerians or in Nigeria who were forcibly converted to Christianity. The British protected Islam in Nigeria, but it tried everything to do to destroy the Igbo religion and impose Christianity on the Igbos. Prior to 1966, 1970, most houses in Igbo land were decorated with symbols of the Star of David. That is apparently why this young girl is wearing a Star of David. Again, there was another older symbol. Most Jews don't know about it. Most Igbos don't know about it. But I know because I left a thriving legal career, entered academia, obtained a PhD in Jewish studies and Igbo studies. The most ancient symbol of Israel was the palm tree. And that is the palm, is the tree of life to the Igbo people. Why are we investing so much in this? The people of Israel have a role to play in the redemption of man. And they will only be able to play this role when they come together as one. Hit the subscribe button. Share. Thank you.